Ethan Cole was a young space engineer working on the orbital research station Aurora. The station floated above the blue curve of Earth, a place filled with humming machines, glowing screens, and the soft sound of life support systems. Ethan liked the quiet of space. He liked fixing things, making sure every part of the station worked as it should. But there was one thing about himself he could never fix. On his right hand was a scar. It was thin but clear, and when the light hit it, it seemed to glow faintly. It had been there since the shuttle accident years ago. That accident was the most terrifying day of his life. The shuttle he was in lost power and crashed into a moon-based platform. Most of the crew survived, but no one could explain why Ethan had a strange pattern burned into his hand. It looked like lines and shapes, almost like some tiny map or circuit. The doctors had scanned it many times. They found no sign of infection or damage inside. They told him it was just scar tissue, maybe formed in a strange way because of the accident. But Ethan knew there was something different about it. Sometimes late at night, the scar seemed to pulse with a soft light, as if it was alive. Recently, something even stranger had started happening. Whenever Ethan walked near a certain section of the station, deep in the older maintenance tunnels, his scar would start to tingle. At first, he thought it was just his imagination. But the feeling kept coming back, stronger each time. It was like the scar was pulling him toward that part of the station. Ethan never told anyone about it. He was afraid if the medical team found out, they might remove him from duty. Space jobs were hard to get, and he had worked for years to earn his place on Aurora. Losing it would mean going back to Earth and living a life that felt small and empty compared to the endless view of the stars. One evening, after finishing his repairs in the docking bay, Ethan walked past the sealed tunnel again. His hand began to glow faintly. He stopped, hiding it quickly in his pocket in case anyone saw. He looked at the tunnel door. It was marked with a warning sign, restricted access. He had never seen anyone go inside. He wanted to know what was in there. Something deep inside told him the scar and that tunnel were connected. But for now, he forced himself to walk away. The station was busy tonight, and there were more ships arriving. New arrivals always brought noise, movement, and sometimes trouble. That night, as Ethan lay in his small cabin, he couldn't stop thinking about the scar. He remembered the moment he first saw it after the crash. He had been lying on the cold metal floor, smoke filling the air, alarms screaming. His hand burned as if it was on fire. When he looked at it, the pattern was already there, glowing for a moment before fading. No one else noticed in the chaos. Ethan turned over in his bed and stared at the ceiling. Outside the window, the stars hung in endless black space. Somewhere out there, maybe there was a reason for his scar. He didn't know yet, but the thought of finding out made his heart beat faster. He felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. In the morning, he woke early and went back to work. He tried to focus on repairing a broken panel in the communications hub, but every time he moved his hand, he caught sight of the scar. It was a quiet reminder that his life might not be as ordinary as he thought. Later that day, as he walked past the central command deck, he overheard two officers talking about a new transport ship that would be docking soon. It was carrying guests for some kind of diplomatic meeting. They sounded tense, as if these visitors were important and not entirely trusted. Ethan didn't think much about it at the time. He didn't know that the arrival of that ship would be the start of something that would change his life forever. He didn't know that someone on board would look at his hand and see not a scar, but a sign. That night, the station's lights dimmed to the soft glow of night mode. Ethan stood by the window again, his hand resting against the glass. The faint glow from his scar shimmered in the reflection. Somewhere beyond the stars, an answer was waiting, and it was coming closer. The day the transport ship arrived, the station was busier than usual. Crew members hurried through the halls, checking systems and making sure everything was ready. Ethan was working in the docking bay, repairing a sensor that had been giving false readings. He liked being near the ships when they arrived. It reminded him of the days before he was assigned to the Aurora, when he still dreamed of exploring the stars. Through the wide viewing window, he saw the transport approach. It was smaller than the cargo freighters, but sleeker, with markings he did not recognize. The ship glided in slowly, guided by the station's landing beams, and docked with a soft vibration through the floor. Ethan stepped back as the airlock doors hissed open. A group of people entered the bay. Some were humans in formal uniforms, but others were not human at all. Ethan had seen aliens before, but this group looked different. They had pale skin with soft glowing lines running along their arms and necks, like living light under the surface. One of them, a young woman, moved with quiet grace. Her eyes were bright, and her hair was a shade of silver that seemed to catch every bit of light. She wore a simple outfit made from a smooth, almost glass-like fabric. When she passed Ethan, she glanced at him for only a second. But in that second, her gaze dropped to his right hand. She stopped walking. Her eyes widened slightly. Ethan felt his stomach tighten. He quickly lowered his hand, but she had already seen it. "You." She began softly, but one of the human officers called to her, and she turned away without finishing her sentence. Ethan stood still, confused. He told himself it was just a strange moment, nothing more. But deep inside, he knew it was not that simple. The way she had looked at his hand was not casual. It was as if she had recognized it. Later that day, while carrying tools back to storage, Ethan saw the young woman again. She was standing near a window in one of the quieter corridors. She looked out at the stars, her face calm but thoughtful. When she saw Ethan, she walked toward him. "My name is Lyra," she said. Her voice was soft but clear. "You are Ethan Cole?" Ethan nodded. "Yes. Can I help you with something?" Her eyes moved to his hand again. "May I see it?" she asked. Ethan hesitated. "It's just a scar," he said. Lyra shook her head slowly. "It is not just a scar. It is a mark. My people have searched for someone with this mark for many years." Ethan frowned. "Searched for me? Why?" "There is an old story among my people," Lyra said. "It speaks of one who carries the pattern of the beacon. That pattern is on your hand. It is a sign of a connection between you and something very old, something hidden." Ethan felt his pulse quicken. "A beacon?" Lyra glanced around the empty corridor before speaking again. "This station was built near a place of power. Your mark reacts to it. That is why you feel it when you walk in certain areas." Ethan was startled. "I'd never told anyone about this strange tingling." "How do you know that?" "'Cause I feel it too," she said, showing him her arm. The glowing lines under her skin shimmered faintly in a pattern that looked like part of his own scar. They stood in silence for a moment. Ethan felt a mix of fear and curiosity. He wanted to ask more, but heavy footsteps came from the far end of the corridor. Lyra stepped back. "We should not talk here," she said. "Meet me tomorrow in the observation deck. Early, before the others arrive." Before he could answer, she walked away, her silver hair catching the light as she disappeared around the corner. That night, Ethan lay awake in his cabin, staring at his glowing scar. His thoughts raced. For years, it had been a mystery he carried alone. A stranger from another world claimed it was a sign, and that she had been looking for him. He felt as if something had been set in motion, something he could not stop. Outside his window, the stars shone like silent watchers. Somewhere beyond them was the answer to his scar. But now, the answer was also here, on the Aurora, walking in human halls, waiting to tell him more. Ethan arrived at the observation deck before the station's day cycle began. The lights were dim, and the wide windows showed the endless black of space. A few maintenance drones floated quietly in the distance, checking the station's outer panels. He stood alone for a moment, his hand in his pocket, feeling the faint warmth of the scar. The door slid open behind him, and Lyra stepped inside. She moved quietly, her silver hair reflecting the faint glow from the stars. She looked around to make sure they were alone, then came to stand beside him. "You came," she said softly. "I wanted to know what you meant yesterday," Ethan replied. "You said my scar is a mark. Said your people have been looking for it. Why me?" Lyra looked out at the stars before answering. "A long time ago, before your world had cities, there was a race of builders. They created great machines that could send signals across the galaxy. My people call them beacons. One of those beacons is here, hidden beneath this station." Ethan frowned. "You're saying this station was built on top of an alien machine?" "Yes," Lyra said. "Your people found the structure long ago, but they did not understand its purpose. They built your station here to study it. The beacon has been silent for centuries. But our stories say that one day it will wake. and it will respond to one who carries its mark. Ethan looked down at his hand. And you think that's me? Lyra nodded. The pattern on your hand matches the patterns on the beacon. It is not something you were born with. It was given to you. Ethan's mind went back to a memory he had not thought about in years. When he was a boy, he had gone camping with his parents in the mountains. One night, he wandered from the campsite to watch the stars. He remembered a strange light in the trees. He remembered nothing else. The next thing he knew, he was back at the campsite, and his parents said they had found him asleep near the fire. A week later, the shuttle accident happened, and the scar appeared. But what if the mark had been there before, hidden until the crash revealed it? You said your people were looking for me, Ethan said slowly. Why? Because the beacon may be the only hope to stop a coming war, Lyra said. Another faction knows of its power. They want to use it to control others. We believe you can unlock it before they arrive. Ethan shook his head. I'm just an engineer. I don't know anything about alien machines. The mark will guide you, Lyra said. But we have little time. Already my sensors show movement in deep space. Enemy fleet may be on its way. Ethan felt a heavy weight in his chest. This was too much, too fast. He had lived his life fixing wires and panels, not saving galaxies. But the way Lyra spoke made it sound like he had no choice. What happens if I refuse? He asked. Lyra looked at him sadly. Then the beacon will remain silent, and when the enemy arrives, this station will fall. Many will die. Ethan turned back to the stars. They looked calm, but now he knew danger was out there, moving closer. He thought of the strange pull he felt in the restricted tunnel. If the beacon was really there, maybe it had been calling to him all along. All right, he said quietly. I'll help you. But we do this my way. No one on the station can know until we're ready. Lyra nodded. Agreed. Tonight, meet me near the lower maintenance shaft. I will show you the path to the beacon. She stepped back, and without another word, she left the observation deck. Ethan stayed for a while longer, staring at his reflection in the glass. The faint glow from his scar was stronger now. It was as if it knew the truth had been spoken, and there was no turning back. When he finally walked away, he knew his life on the Aurora had just changed. Whatever lay beneath the station was waiting for him. The stars outside seemed to watch in silence as his journey began. That night, the station was quiet, except for the low hum of its systems. Most of the crew were asleep, and the corridors were empty. Ethan moved carefully, keeping to the shadows. His scar was warm again, and the glow was stronger than before. It felt almost like it was guiding him. He reached the lower maintenance shaft, just as Lyra stepped out from a side corridor. She carried a small device that projected a faint blue light. Without speaking, she motioned for him to follow. They moved through narrow passages Ethan had never been in before. The walls were older here, the metal worn and patched in places. Some of the panels had markings that didn't match the rest of the station patterns, carved into the surface like the ones on Ethan's hand. As they walked deeper, the air grew cooler. The lights above flickered, and the soft sound of machinery was replaced by a low, steady hum that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Finally, they reached a sealed door. It was tall, made of dark metal with strange shapes etched across it. Lyra placed her glowing hand against the surface, and lines of light spread from her palm. The hum grew louder. It needs both of us, she said. Place your hand here. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then pressed his scarred hand beside hers. At once, his palm burned with heat, and the lines on the door flared bright. The metal split down the middle and slid open, revealing a wide chamber beyond. Inside, the walls curved in a perfect circle. At the center stood a tall, black structure shaped like an obelisk, its surface covered in glowing patterns. The hum was stronger here, almost like a heartbeat. This is the beacon, Lyra said quietly. It has slept for centuries. Your mark can wake it. Ethan stepped closer. As he did, the glow from his scar pulsed in time with the beacon's faint light. He reached out, and the patterns shifted, as if reacting to him. His fingers brushed the surface, and in an instant, images flashed in his mind stars. Planets and strange symbols he didn't understand. He pulled back, gasping. I saw something. Lyra nodded. It is trying to speak to you. But we do not have much time. The enemy fleet will arrive soon. Before Ethan could respond, the chamber shook slightly. A voice crackled through Lyra's device in her own language. Her expression turned serious. "They are already here," she said. "A scout ship has entered the system. We must prepare the beacon." Ethan looked at the alien machine, feeling both fear and determination. "What do I have to do?" "Follow the guidance of the mark," Lyra said. "It will show you how to activate the core. But once we begin, the energy signal will be detected. The enemy will know exactly where we are." Ethan nodded, stepped forward and placed his hand firmly against the beacon. The heat surged through him again, and the glowing lines raced up his arm. The patterns on the obelisk began to shift and connect, forming shapes that looked like constellations. A low vibration spread through the floor. The hum grew into a deep, resonant tone that filled the chamber. The lights in the station above flickered as power flowed toward the beacon. Outside, alarms began to sound faintly. Ethan knew the command deck would be scrambling to understand what was happening. But there was no turning back now. The glow from his hand brightened until it filled his vision. His mind was flooded with more images, fleets of ships, bright bursts of energy, and a star map that pointed to this very location. He felt as though something inside the beacon was unlocking, one layer at a time. Suddenly, Lyra grabbed his shoulder. "We have to stop for now. If the signal completes, they will arrive before we are ready." Ethan stepped back, his breath heavy. The beacon's light faded slightly, but the hum remained. "And we need to be ready fast," he said. Lyra nodded. "Tomorrow night, we finish the activation. By then, I will have the defenses in place. But you must be here, no matter what." Ethan looked once more at the beacon. The connection between him and the machine was stronger than ever. He could feel it waiting for him, calling to him. As they left the chamber and sealed the door behind them, Ethan knew the final step was close. The enemy was on their way, and soon the fate of the station, and maybe more, would rest in his hands. The next night, Ethan moved through the station with a sense of urgency. The corridors were tense. He could feel it in the way the crew spoke, in short voices, and moved quickly. Rumors had spread that unknown ships were near the system. Official reports claimed there was no danger, but Ethan knew better. Lyra had told him the truth. He reached the lower maintenance shaft and found her waiting. She had brought a small case of alien devices and was checking them quickly. Her glowing lines were brighter tonight, almost matching the steady light from Ethan's scar. "They're close," she said quietly. "The main fleet will arrive within hours. We have to finish the activation now." They moved fast through the hidden passages until they stood again before the sealed door. Together, they placed their hands on the surface. The lines of light spread, and the door opened with a deep, echoing sound. Inside, the beacon stood waiting. The hum was stronger, and the patterns across its surface shifted as if it knew they had returned. Ethan stepped forward, his heart beating fast. "Once you start," Lyra said, "there will be no stopping until it is done. The energy wave will be powerful enough to be felt across the system. The enemy will try to stop us." Ethan nodded. "Then we finish it before they can." He pressed his scarred hand against the beacon. This time the connection was instant and overwhelming. The heat surged through him, and his vision filled with stars. The patterns on the beacon flared bright, casting the whole chamber in white light. In his mind, shapes and symbols moved like a language he could almost understand. His hand began to move on its own, tracing patterns across the surface of the beacon. Each touch unlocked another layer of the machine. Above them, distant booms shook the station. Lyra looked up sharply. "They are here. The fleet is engaging our outer defenses." Ethan kept working, feeling the mark on his hand guide him. He saw flashes of the enemy ships in his mind, dark shapes moving through space. But the beacon's power was building. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed in the corridor outside. Voices shouted. The door shook as someone tried to force it open. "They found us," Lyra said. She placed one of her devices on the door, and a shimmering field appeared over it. "So we'll hold them for a short time." "Keep going," Ethan focused. The glow from the beacon grew so bright it was hard to see. The hum turned into a deep, resonant sound that filled his chest. He felt a final lock within the beacon, and the mark on his hand burned with intense heat. Then everything released. A pulse of light shot upward from the beacon, through the station, and into space. It was not a weapon, but a wave of pure energy. In the vision that filled Ethan's mind, he saw the enemy fleet freeze. Their systems went dark, their weapons silent. They drifted powerless in the void. Lyra stepped beside him, her face lit by the fading glow. It is done. It cannot harm us now. Ethan's breathing slowed. The mark on his hand was brighter than ever, the lines steady and warm. What happens now? The beacon has sent a signal farther than you can imagine, Lyra said. My people will come. And now your people will know that this place is not just a station, but a bridge between worlds. They left the chamber as the station's systems stabilized. The alarms quieted, and reports came in that the enemy ships were retreating. Crew celebrated, not knowing the real reason they had been saved. The quiet that followed, Lyra turned to Ethan. We have finally discovered you, she said. We're the link between our worlds. You can walk among both, and both will listen. Ethan looked at the scar on his hand. For years it had been a mystery, a strange reminder of a past he did not understand. Now, it was a symbol of something greater. He felt the weight of what Lyra was saying, but also the hope in it. I'll do it, he said. I'll help both sides understand each other. If this beacon is a bridge, then I'll stand on it. Outside the station, the stars shone brighter than ever. Somewhere in that endless sky, new allies were already on their way. And deep within the station, the beacon waited, silent now but alive, its connection to Ethan stronger than ever.